Waz, and Happy New Year, everyone! 2024! That was a weird year, wasn't it?
What year is this?
Same year as it was yesterday, 2024.
And you know what else also got weird? Star Trek. And here to ring in 2025 are 10 of the franchise's weirdest episodes. Now, when I say weird, I don't necessarily mean bad, although there are a few of those on this list. I mean episodes that make you say, what the hell did I just watch? They have a premise or subplot that's weird even by Star Trek standards. And that's saying something. These are episodes you have to promise your unsuspecting family members and friends, I swear, the show isn't always like this, please don't stop watching. Now, I did envision this list as a weirdest episodes list, but one, there are a lot of weird Star Trek episodes, and they're weird for different reasons. And two, there are episodes that I would have included in this list, except for the fact that I already covered them in their own videos. Threshold, The Thaw, the infamous Sub Rosa. I probably would have included them in a top 10 list, but it would just be me repeating myself. I do recommend you experience my pain to its fullest, though, by checking out those videos yourself. In the meantime, as per tradition on this channel, to ring in the new year, here is a list of 10 of Trek's weirdest episodes. Make it groan.
It's all a little weird.
But before I go further, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I talk a lot about Star Trek, video games, and whatever else I feel like talking about. And if you'd like to help support the channel, consider becoming a member. Be great to have you aboard.
We're Starfleet officers. Weird is part of the job.
What you're telling me is that Major Kira is gonna have my baby?
Major Kira is pregnant with Chief O'Brien and Keiko's baby, and Quark sells his body on the open market. No, not like that!
When you see how much your body is worth?
We're off to a really great start here, as even a quick summary of this episode sounds weird. Now, it's a common obstacle in TV production, hiding an actress's pregnancy when her character isn't pregnant, and it doesn't make sense for the character to become pregnant. Heck, even the nanny made a joke out of it.
Well, this just came back from the framers. Where do you want to hang it?
But DS9's way of handling Nana Visitor's pregnancy in the episode Body Parts was certainly a little strange and could only work in a sci-fi setting. Keiko O'Brien, pregnant with baby number 2, decides to take a trip to the Gamma Quadrant with Kira and Julian for a plant survey, only to come back with a medical emergency. Keiko and baby are fine, but there were some complications.
The baby just had a change of address, that's all. Your son's living here now.
Yep, this was how they wrote Nana Visitor and Alexander Siddig's baby into DS9. Julian transplanted Keiko's baby into Kira for the rest of the pregnancy. Huh, I guess no matter how you look at it in real life or in the show, Dr. Bashir put a baby in Major Kira.
This is still your fault.
My fault?
And since she's carrying their baby, Keiko put some pressure on Kira to move in so the O'Briens can be near their baby, leading to some very strange moments later in the show.
Which part of his family are you? Sister? Daughter? Cousin?
Are you my aunt?
I don't even know anymore. And that's not even getting into Quark's plotline where he thinks he's dying and preemptively sells his desiccated remains on the Ferengi open market, only to find out that he's not dying. Liquidator Brunt
FCA
bought his remains and insists on collecting them. And it only gets weirder when Quark enlists Garrick's help in finishing the job. Yeah, there's no way to make this episode sound normal, but it's actually a pretty solid episode with some background for the Ferengi, and it even ends on a heartwarming moment at Quark's. But yeah, explaining this episode to non-Trekkies is an interesting experience, and the entire episode is kinda out there even by Trek standards.
It means I get to sue Dr. Orfax for malpractice! Oh.
We're Starfleet officers. Weird is part of the job.
No, I'm not talking about the Sega Genesis, but oh, I wish I was. how do I describe this next-gen monstrosity of an episode called Genesis?
Genesis?
Well, Worf sprays Listerine in Beverly's face and paralyzes her, Troy turns into a tadpole, Riker turns into the Geico caveman and flips Picard the bird, and Picard begins his transformation into a lemur. Oh, and Barclay turns into a weird human Spider-Man. And not even the cool kind!
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Oh, and all of this was cured because Data's cat Spot was pregnant and turned into a lizard. Okay, what were the writers on when they wrote this episode? Yeah, this is one of Season 7's offerings, and Season 7 of Star Trek The Next Generation was a pretty weak season. It's filled with so many weird episodes, like the time Beverly dated her 100-year-old grandmother's candle ghost boyfriend, or the time the Enterprise computer became sentient and turned into the Orient Express. So when you think about it, is it really that hard to believe that the Enterprise would get hit by a weird virus that causes everyone to de-evolve? While Data and Picard were away, they leave for 3 days and all hell breaks loose. To be fair though, the episode does do a decent job building the suspense when Data and Picard go through the Enterprise and they're not sure what freak of nature is going to jump out at them. Not to mention Picard turning into a lemur? Granted, it's Patrick Stewart, so of course he's going to do a good job. The idea of a crew slowly changing into something they're not isn't exactly new to Trek, but this is certainly a strange application of the trope. Oh yeah, and it turns out this was all Barclay's fault.
He transformed into a spider and now he has a disease named after him. I think I better clear my calendar for the next few weeks.
We're Starfleet officers. Weird is part of the job.
I say we tie them up to the lampposts in the square and show them how spirit folk were dealt with in the olden days.
Okay, I know Voyager's Fairhaven episodes get a lot of crap, but to be honest, I kinda enjoy them. Of course, I'm also a big fan of British period dramas, so a story following a quaint Irish village in the 1800s, and it's Star Trek? Sign me up. Fairhaven was a holo program the Voyager crew would run where they dress up in period attire, talk to the locals, and relive a simpler life. Your mileage may vary on the show's 2 Fairhaven episodes, but I'd call the second Fairhaven episode, Spirit Folk, the odder of the 2. It's a full-blown witch hunt on none other than prankster Tom Paris. Tom modded the Fairhaven holo program, and one thing led to another, and Harry Kim kisses a cow. Tom and his friends are accused of practicing magic and consorting with fairies by the townspeople. Janeway admits she has a boyfriend who malfunctions.
I've got a boyfriend who malfunctions.
And Tom, Harry, and the Doc are kidnapped, and the townspeople attempt to send them back to the other world. And there's hypnosis.
What is your true name?
I haven't decided on one yet.
This is another holodeck malfunction gone horribly wrong episode, which already isn't a popular Trek trope, but then it takes some odd turns even for Trek. I can see why this episode might turn some people off, but for me, it's more quirky than anything else and pretty harmless in the grand scheme of things. But nevertheless, it's weird enough to merit mentioning on my list.
They turned Maggie into a cow.
That'll never happen again.
We're Starfleet officers. Weird is part of the job.
His body is, how do you humans say it, fit as a fiddle.
Now, upon first viewing, the passenger may be a somewhat engaging mystery. Or at the very least, you gotta know how it ends. But after you know the plot twist at the end, and spoiler alert to anyone who hasn't seen it, it just turns into Alexander Siddig acting weird for an hour. The mystery of the episode revolves around who's been possessed by the consciousness of a supposedly dead madman, Rayo Vantica. And the tension relies on not knowing who's been compromised. Heck, there are shots of the mysterious person throughout the episode, proving that security guard Kajada's suspicions aren't unfounded and there really is an unknown threat running around. Until after you find out it was Dr. Bashir all along, and then it becomes painfully obvious in subsequent viewings that it's just Alexander Siddig with a creepy whisper.
Have you made the preparations?
And even during the big reveal, his expressions and manner of speaking are so over-exaggerated and slow that it just comes across as weird rather than legitimately creepy. I do tend to cut this episode a little bit of slack. After all, it was a season 1 episode, which, even though I think people are harder on DS9 season 1 than they should be, it still needed to find its footing. But this is one of those episodes I skipped during my DS9 rewatches. I know there are mysteries that have rewatch value that keep you coming back even when you know the plot twist, but this isn't one of those mysteries. On the plus side, we do get this great Odo moment.
What kind of fool are you?
My own special variety.
We're Starfleet officers. Weird is part of the job.
Let me out of here!
Welcome to the Enterprise Drama Club. What play should we put on? How about Shakespeare? Henry V? I have been practicing my dancing. Would not a musical be appropriate? Maybe Cats? Psycho thriller starring Riker it is! What?
I'm not crazy!
Frame of Mind is a bit of a trip. Both the episode and the play Riker stars in for a Beverly production has a way of messing with your head and even questioning what's real or not. Riker stars as a man in an insane asylum, unsure of what's real and what's not. And then the play becomes a little too real. Suddenly, he's having difficulties discerning reality from fiction, phasing in and out of the play he stars in until fiction merges with reality with only his belief that he isn't insane keeping him going. It's a method actor's worst nightmare. Or a dream come true, I'm not really sure.
Who are you?
Wow, this play really reaches out and grabs you. Heck, Riker even goes to Troy saying the play's a little disturbing, and she encourages him to embrace his darker side?
Don't be afraid of your darker side. Have fun with it.
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
And your journey towards the dark side will be complete.
In some ways, the episode is brilliant. It sends you on the same psychological thriller Riker is on, forcing you to decide reality from fiction. It really keeps you guessing about what's really going on and even questioning Riker's sanity. But you're gonna be in for a really weird hour of television. Also, there's something really satisfying about Riker tearing down the set. Also, nobody let Beverly pick any more plays!
We're Starfleet officers. Weird is part of the job.
Not quite sure if congratulations are in order, Commander, but you're pregnant.
Trip sticks his hand in a box and becomes pregnant. That's it, that's the episode.
Put your right hand in the box.
What's in the box?
Pregnancy. Enterprise faced an uphill battle from the start. A lot of fans weren't exactly keen on a prequel series, not to mention how the show approached certain established Trek concepts. And then not helping matters was unexpected so early in the show's run. I mean, imagine you're trying to give Enterprise a chance, and 5 episodes in, you get a weird pregnancy plot. I swear the show is decent. But since the Enterprise is known for housing the do-gooders of the galaxy, no matter what iteration it is, Captain Archer sends his chief engineer over to help some aliens for 3 days who introduce him to the holodeck. Riker, wipe that smirk off your face! And one thing led to another, and Trip begins to experience bodily changes. He's pregnant.
3 days. You were only there for 3 days and you couldn't restrain yourself.
I was a complete gentleman the entire time.
The episode at times almost takes a sitcom tone, with Trip going through the motions of carrying a child. And then it turns out, it was all an accident. The aliens didn't know he would actually get pregnant. They just had him stick his hands in a box known to cause pregnancy. That's kind of messed up. Also, Klingons actually say this line.
I can see my house from here.
Also, it's kind of dawning on me that there are not 1, but 2 pregnancy episodes on this list. I'm sensing a theme here.
One of the first things a diplomat learns is not to stick his fingers where they don't belong.
We're Starfleet officers. Weird is part of the job.
Nice to see you, Ensign.
Are you drunk?
If there's ever an episode in Trek that just feels wrong, well, yes, but also the Voyager episode Body and Soul. Granted, it manages to stay in the TV PG range, but it's one of those episodes that you'd be well advised to not overthink. because holy, this episode is both weird and icky. Seven, Harry, Kim, and the holodoc are captured by aliens who don't like holograms, so the doc hides out in Seven's body and experiences emotions and sensations that humans feel. So the doc has the hots for one of the aliens holding them hostage, but he's in Seven's body, and Seven is totally creeped out and not having any of it. The whole thing is extremely uncomfortable to watch, and it just feels icky. And if that wasn't bad enough, even the B-plot is icky. Tuvok is going through that time of the 7-year itch. I'm talking about the Ponfar. He has to mate with his wife or die.
You have just gone without for 7 years about.
And the solution? Tom Paris makes a special holo program for him, which if he's not careful could end up in quarks.
And they all come with a surprise in the center. Never mind.
Now, this episode isn't a complete disaster. It does explore emotions from a hologram's perspective, and Jerry Ryan does do a pretty decent job imitating Robert Picardo's Doctor. Not to mention, we have that cheesecake moment. It's actually a pretty solid premise, but the actual execution just feels wrong.
The whole world is full of experiences and sensations, but you insist on denying yourself.
We're Starfleet officers. Weird is part of the job.
Now, Plato's Stepchildren is a notable episode in the franchise, namely because of its at the time controversial kiss between Kirk and Uhura. While that groundbreaking moment is often cited as an example of how Trek pushed the envelope in the 60s, the rest of the episode is pretty strange. Plato's Stepchildren finds the Enterprise happening upon aliens who base their entire culture on ancient Greece and the teachings of Plato. They also happen to have telekinetic powers to make their servant Alexander do their bidding. And they also make the Enterprise crew do perhaps some of the most bat-crazy shit ever seen on Star Trek.
I'm Tweedledee, he's Tweedledum. Spaceman marching to and from.
Take care, young ladies, and value your wine.
Make them stop.
I mean, I know the original series is known for its camp, but good gravy, this isn't helping. To be fair, the episode is going for a power corrupts story, which isn't necessarily bad, and there's even a nice moment between Kirk and Alexander.
Where I come from, size, shape, or color makes no difference. And nobody has the power.
Heck, Alexander even has a great moment where he rejects the Plutonians' powers because he doesn't want to become them. So yes, this episode did have some good ideas. It just all gets lost amid the insanity.
We're Starfleet officers. Weird is part of the job.
I'm pregnant.
Yet another pregnancy episode! What is that, 3 now? Star Trek, why can't you be normal? The thing is that the pregnancy plot of this episode is probably the most normal part of it. Even though it's Waxana Troy suddenly arriving on the station pregnant and she's on the run from her husband and decides to marry Odo and get a quickie divorce. Yes, that's the normal part of this episode. But Waxana's pregnancy plot does have some really sweet moments between Waxana and Odo that are a joy to watch. Majel Barrett and Renee Auberjonois have decent chemistry with each other. But no, the weird part of the episode is where space vampire Meg Foster creeps on Jake Sisko and causes him to have nosebleeds. Yeah, she invites Jake to her quarters to give him pointers for his latest story, and in turn feeds off him and shortens his lifespan so much that he passes out at the Replimat. Oh yeah, and he actually ditched a vacation with his father for this. That whole plot is so uncomfortable to watch because even though Jake isn't an adult at this point, he's still pretty young and naive, and there's clearly a power dynamic going on here, making the whole thing feel pretty weird. And this is technically the A plot. The Waxana pregnancy plot is the B plot, and it's the only thing anyone wants to remember about this episode. Also, I have to mention this Worf moment.
Wondering if you wanted to take a walk.
I would.
We're Starfleet officers. Weird is part of the job.
Don't do this!
Oh, Troy. I know, I roast Deanna Troy a lot on my channel, and the poor lady was capable of decent storylines. It's just that she doesn't have many of them, and a lot of the stories she does get involve her getting involved with the wrong man. In the case of Man of the People, it's a guy who projects all his negative emotions onto her so she rapidly ages like a bowl of fruit. Or Star Trek's version of the picture of Dorian Gray. And Troy doesn't become a sweet old lady baking cookies and knitting sweaters or anything normal like that. No, she's fed up with her job and handing out brutal advice.
Maybe he's just tired of hearing you complain.
Pardon me?
I know I'm certainly tired of it.
Prowling the Enterprise for all the youthful young ensigns, attempting to hit on Riker, only to scratch his face like an old sexy Wolverine, and then stabs Picard. Which, to be fair, is really just a regular Tuesday for him.
It's a little stiff, but it'll be fine.
Heck, in order to cure her, she has to die and be revived. And yet, despite all that weirdness, this episode doesn't offer much, not even good riffing value. We're basically following yet another bad Troy romance. Or not a romance, but it's almost played off that way. Yeah, even that's weird. The guy is a total scumbag. Like, come on, Deanna, he's not even hot! This episode is just not fun to watch, and I almost always skip this episode when it comes up in my rewatches. It's not a very good episode. It's just weird, and not even the weirdness can redeem it. Man, they really need to stop with these Karate Kid sequels.
I'm going home, man.
And those are 10 weird episodes of Star Trek. And there are plenty more. What do you think of my selection of weird Star Trek episodes? What are some of your favorite weird episodes? Heck, what are some of your least favorite or even most memorable weird episodes? Please, leave comments below and discuss. Personally, I think even if an episode isn't good, the fact that you remember it means that it accomplished something in the end. As always, thanks for tuning in to another Star Trek video, and Happy New Year! If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends! Until next time...
I was wondering if you wanted to take a walk.
I would.